you'll join us tonight and with Mr. Robert Bruce. He is the author of Astral Dynamics and Mastering Astral Projection, as well as programs to help us learn how to develop our psychic skills and learn astral projection. Also, what I read on his website, it says his task in life is finally revealed, to bring new spiritual knowledge and techniques to the world. Awesome. And to create a new yardstick that people and seekers and spiritual practitioners can trust. You can learn more about Mr. Bruce on his website at www.astraldynamics.com. Join me for an exciting journey into the mysteries of astral projection and out of body, and we can also find out the difference between the two. We'll learn about psychic self-defense and protection during astral travel, so call in and ask your questions. I just wanted to welcome our guest. Welcome, Robert.
G'day.
How are you today?
I'm wonderful, thank you.
Good, good. Well, let's start by having you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I am a mystic, and the definition of a mystic is a person who approaches a greater reality through personal experience. Mm. And I've done that my entire life since I was born.
Wow. Wow. That's quite an early age to know that that's your path. That's very interesting. Well, what we're going to talk about tonight is you've written a couple books about the subject of astral travel, OBE, out-of-body experience, etc. The books Astral Dynamics and Mastering Astral Projection. So can you tell me just a little bit about what exactly is astral projection?
Astral projection is when you leave your physical body and you project an energy copy of yourself out into the astral dimension, in the very, very close to the physical, usually at the start. Uh-huh. It's important there was a distinct difference between astral projection and lucid dreaming. And lucid dreaming can even be said to be like a higher level of a projection. Astral projection, in essence, is a projection of an energy copy from the flesh of your body. Okay. It's generated from the actual flesh of your body. And this is demonstrable if you examine a lot of cases and work with people who are trying to have astral projections, is you get some odd things happening which shouldn't happen if this was like all in your mind. And it doesn't apply to lucid dreaming, for example. Okay. You, for example, you get a lot of side effects from attempting an astral projection. And when you start to get into the actual exit out of body, you get typically you'll get whole body vibrations, which can vary from mild vibrations to very intense, life-threatening feeling vibrations. Okay. And a very rapid heart rate, where your heart feels like it's going 500 beats a minute in your chest, and a continual falling sensation. Now, one of the problems that happens frequently during astral projection, exits out of body, I'm talking about mainly conscious ones, is you can be stuck to a part of your body. For example, you can be stuck at the head or the stomach, or maybe one wrist and hand is stuck there. And if you try and complete the separation by forcibly pulling, it really hurts. This happens occasionally, but it demonstrates to me that obviously that area of the body, of the flesh of the body, is not generating the astral double at that point, and so you can't get away from it. Now, lucid dreaming and wake-induced lucid dreaming are all related. Are projections of the mind. They are mental projections. Okay. And there is a direct parallel between astral projection and the different levels and types of projection possible, and dreaming and the different levels and types possible. Now, most out-of-body experiences combine these two together. You have part mental projection, part astral projection from the flesh. Okay. And depending upon the balance here, it depends on how you function and how your mind is during astral projection. If you have a lot of the flesh in there, a pure astral projection itself is very volatile. It's very like of the animal part of people, very much of the ego, and it can even be very, very sexual, that part. Now, the mind, of course, has more processing ability. You will remember who you are. You have no problems remembering the mental projection, the dreams and lucid dreams, much easier to remember. Whereas astral projection from the flesh is very difficult to remember, and this is why people find it so difficult, where in fact everybody, no exceptions, projects out of their body every time they sleep. Everybody does this. Every dog and cat does this. I've observed dogs and cats doing it while I've been meditating. They astral project. I've even observed a hamster astral projecting when I've been holding my hands. I mean, if you're there and I'm meditating, I gain astral sight. It's like clairvoyance. And I see into the astral dimension, and I often see my dogs and cats projecting. So, I mean, it seems to be that every living thing does this.
Well, okay, so stopping you right there, I have a question around that. And you were talking, I have to back up just a little bit to the vibrations, because I don't know if other people have had this experience. And it's been a long time since I did, but I remember I used to have these dreams where it would start out with a very low hum. And then the vibration would get so loud that I thought that I was being pulled out of my house, is how it would feel to me. Although I would, finally wake up, because I would fight through this because I didn't know what it was. I was very, very, very frightened of it. Is this the vibrations that you're talking about?
Okay, if it is vibrations, you feel them like a physical vibration in your body.
Okay, like you would feel if something was vibrating and you put it on your body. That would be with the vibrations. You wouldn't necessarily hear them.
No, that's a separate thing. Imagine if you were strapped to an industrial concrete vibrator, like a bed that is vibrating your entire body. You can feel your bones vibrating.
Oh, okay.
That can vary from being mild to really intense. You'll think you're dying. I mean, that can be absolutely intense. Wow. But for most people, they're fairly mild. Now, the noise you're talking about is astral noise related to astral projection. Now, that can be, you get all kinds of noises. You can hear voices and things. You can hear buzzing noises. And they actually call that buzzing noise. You get the ambient sound. And you can actually tune into that by listening carefully to it in a deeply relaxed state. And by listening carefully to it, that will cause an astral projection exit. But it can also be very, very loud. Now, sometimes you will get astral noises, it is like, imagine a train going past your head.
Yeah.
6 inches away from your head. Imagine a train going at about 60 miles an hour, a big train, roaring past your head, and your head is laying 6 inches from the rails.
That is exactly how it felt.
It's that loud.
Yes.
It's huge. Now, some of these things, they serve a purpose. I mean, years ago, I couldn't work this out. I used to guess what actually causes them. But I'm pretty certain I know what causes all these weird sounds. You will often hear voices talking in the room. Sometimes you'll hear multiple voices, and they may even be discussing you by name. You may hear people you know. You may hear all kinds of sounds. You can hear the dragging of chains across corrugated iron, and you might hear the wailing of lost souls and weird things. You may even feel hands touching you and maybe pulling on your feet as if they're trying to pull you out of your body. And lots of weird... These things generally, by and large, are programs built into the collective consciousness. You could also say these are programs used by your own higher self, which is a part of you, your divine aspect. Because what these things do is they're a little bit more than just an anomaly, an odd sound, disturbing sounds. I mean, they're only disturbing because we don't know what they are.
Right.
But what they do is they create a powerful memory, so that if you don't have these weird experiences, You could go for a nice buzzy exit out of body, and then you wander around and go off exploring, and there's no real power in the memories. You're enjoying them, but then you'll wake up the next morning or when you wake up during the night, and you won't remember them, because there is something I call the mind split effect. When you project out of your body, this is astral projection, your mind splits into two identical copies. An energy copy is generated and projected out of body, and the real you can stay in your body, still thinking and still be awake during the projection.
Oh, my goodness.
And that normally causes paralysis. Your physical body, mind will be paralyzed. But the projected double, when it's out, it needs a powerful memory, otherwise it won't be remembered. Because here you have two streams of memory for the same time period. You have your astral body that's out, gathering experience memories independently. Your physical body mind is also laying in bed, usually often awake, and also experiencing and, creating its own memories, which have more direct impact on the mind. Your dream mind can also become active at the same time. This means you have three copies of you functioning simultaneously, each of them gathering memories. Now, the way we're designed is astral projection, lucid dream memories, and that are usually not recalled. We remember the occasional dream. That's about it.
Right.
But, look, these memories behave very, very differently to how normal physical real-life memories behave.
Oh, they do. That's true. I'm going to stop you right there for a minute, Robert. I have a caller that's been waiting for a while, so I'm going to go ahead and bring them in and get their question. And then we're going to come back and revisit that because I want to continue that conversation, definitely. Let's see. Hello, area code 405. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
You had a question for Mr. Bruce?
Yes, I did. My name is Chris. I had the vibration experience before, the strong vibrations. And what's the difference between that and a Kundalini awakening? Because the vibrations I had were really strong, just rattled my brain, felt like it was being electrocuted.
I heard about that too. Mm-hmm. I've been told the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I
had my first intentional astral projection right following that. So I just wondered what the difference between the Kundalini awakening and that is.
Chris, the vibrations themselves, when you feel vibrations, they are specifically astral projection, out-of-body experience related to the exit out of body. But if you felt an electrical component, you said you felt electrified, electrical feeling sensation, that is Kundalini related. It's relating to a Kundalini spike.
Okay. So there is a difference in the electrical feeling. It felt like my brain was being electrocuted. So I guess it came up the spine, although I didn't really notice it until it was in my brain. And then, so that's the difference, the electrical feeling versus the whole body vibration.
Yeah, definitely.
Mainly feel it in your brain.
Yeah, the vibrations can also be patchy. You may find, for example, just your legs are vibrating, but a little bit of energy work, some body awareness work can spread the vibrations. But Kundalini is something that I teach as well. And I'm actually halfway through preparing a video-based program on how to raise Kundalini. And because there's so much misinformation out there about it. I raised my Kundalini about 20 years ago and dozens of times since, because Kundalini is not a raise it once and you're done kind of thing. It's a whole new level of energy work and development.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you could consciously do that.
Yeah.
So that's a different path, or I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
Is that a different path to astral projection? If you can already achieve that, is that a better path or just a different path?
It's a very different path. What Kundalini does, it activates the higher functioning, you could say, of your DNA, to use an analogy here, inside of you. Inside of everybody, and if is a Kundalini, you could say, seed inside of every human being. And you can this seed, when it's activated, and you call this awakening Kundalini, it begins to transform your body and mind, and particularly your level of consciousness, to a higher level. And there are multiple levels can be achieved. And if you keep going to it, when you awaken Kundalini, you also awaken, you could say, your inner genius. You start to become a genius in your field, whatever your field is. If you're a writer, you'll become a genius writer or poet. If you're an artist, you'll become a genius artist. It awakens talents and genius as part of the enlightenment process of realization. And that's not a separate path. If you can have a conscious astral projection and lucid dreaming as well, you will find raising Kundalini much easier because, having an astral projection and lucid dreaming is a lot easier to do than to do a Kundalini rising, which involves a lot of energy work and a huge amount of work to do that, to raise the serpent of fire. And they call it a serpent of fire, by the way, because that's what it feels like. It's a physical sensation, the whole cobra thing. It feels like a snake as thick as your wrist pushes its way up through the perineum, which is the flat area between your anus and genitals, and it pushes up inside your body and 3.5 coils clockwise and up through the neck and the head. And it feels like a snake. This is a physical sensation. It's not analogy.
Wow, I don't think I've ever... That's really interesting about the Kundalini. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We're going to have you come back, Mr. Bruce, and we'll talk about the Kundalini because now my interest is very piqued. I'm very ignorant about that subject. When you said, of course, my interest was piqued when you said, "Oh, and then it'll open your genius." I thought, well, everybody can use that a little bit.
And this will make the world a better place. I'm actually in the middle of writing. I've just started writing a book called Kundalini Dynamics.
Oh my gosh. Well, so of course I would probably have to wait for a couple years. It seems to be the case whenever one of my guests say they're writing a book, I'm like, oh, I have to wait.
Well, it's about 12 months, but I've been creating a video-based program, like a documentary-based, for the last year, and that should be ready by around about February, March next year.
Okay, good. Because I'll definitely want to talk more about that. When we were talking about, we were on the part of the lucid dreaming mind split, and okay, so I don't know if this has anything to do with it. I get confused between all of them. I get confused between the difference between lucid dreaming and an actual out-of-body, because when I was reading your book, when you were talking about literally you come out of your body, you don't have to open your eyes because you can see everything in your house. Now, I've done that accidentally in between, like in the hypnagogic state, and it's very, very brief. But actually choosing to do so, coming out of the body, actually visiting someplace, and then also the difference between doing the virtual projection, where you go to places like you had talked about in one of your books, actually projecting yourself into another realm, someplace on the astral where you actually see other beings. See, all these things seem different to me.
Yeah, they are. They're different levels and different applications, you could say, of the one ability. Astral projection, as I said, is a projection of the flesh. That's the astral body. You also have what is called the mental body, which is more closely related to the mind. And the mental body is involved when you dream, or when you have lucid dreams, or if you have wake-induced lucid dreaming. And wake-induced lucid dreaming is like a conscious projection out of body on the mental level. Okay.
So that's probably what I experience when I meditate, when I feel like I go to these places, because there's times when I've gone to places that I certainly don't recognize, and while it may have initially started out as my own mind creation, as part of meditating, I find myself going, and I actually will feel certain physical sensations. For instance, if a being touches me or whatever, I'll feel it in my physical body. So I always assumed that was astral that I was astral traveling.
Well, you could be, but it's difficult to tell which one you're at. One of the best ways is, if you have a good memory of the experience and maybe the experience is longer, astral projections tend to be fairly short because if you're going to retain the memory of one, it needs to be fairly short. A pure astral projection or a heavily astral-based projection, because you have a time limit when you have an astral projection that doesn't apply to lucid dreaming. And that time limit is when you have an astral projection, you may shift into the astral planes, for example, where time is stretched. Now, a minute here could be like an hour there. So they are longer experiences. But the time limitation there, once you shift out of body and the mind splits, what you will experience in the physical body is you will do everything to have an astral projection. You will deeply relax your body and mind, and then you will use a method to get out of your body. You will feel yourself rolling out of body or feeling yourself climbing a rope without moving, and you get out of body. Now, once you separate what the physical body feels here, it will feel all the sensations. It will feel the rapid heartbeat, the vibrations, the falling sensation, all the way up until the actual exact moment of separation when, imagine, your astral body just shifts out of alignment with your physical body. At that moment, the mind split occurs, and you now are, for all intents and purposes, two separate beings, but heavily connected with energy cords. Now, your physical body will experience all of that up to the point of separation, then it all stops. And you will think to yourself, wow, everything was going well and it just stopped for no reason. And you don't know why it stopped. But why it stops is that you've gotten out of body and then you've gone off exploring, and then your physical body, of course, is left there, usually paralyzed, and it feels very, very tired and weak, and it will soon fall asleep. And when it falls asleep, it will nosedive into deeper and deeper levels of sleep very, very quickly. And once you reach like stage 2 level sleep, stage 3, which is fairly deep sleep, it's difficult to awaken you. I mean, even if somebody nudges you or a truck goes by, or even if somebody gives you a bit of a shaking, you may not wake up because you're really deeply asleep. Now, if your astral body comes back and tries to get back into you to reintegrate, it can't get back in, because when you have an astral projection, it is required, you need to be your physical body mind needs to be in the falling asleep process to allow the astral body to be generated and projected. Now, the reverse applies. In order to reintegrate, your physical body mind needs to be in the process of awakening, and that allows your astral body to get back in again and reintegrate. So, if you understand about this, if you're trying astral projection, follow this really basic advice. You will maximize your chances of success. Keep your astral projection very, very short. And I mean 10 seconds out of your body. Get out of your body, move to the far side of the room, spin around and look at the room, look at your hands, lift them up and look at them, and you'll see they will melt like white ice under a blowtorch. In 2 or 3 seconds, your fingers will be stumps of like melted wax. It doesn't hurt you. It's just a phenomena caused by observing a body part of your astral body. Now, then turn around and dive back into your physical body where it is on the bed or in the chair, passionately, savagely shouting your success and using a key word like, my hands melted, or Geronimo, or I did it, something, but get really passionate and make that memory you've got very powerful.
Is that why you do that? Is that why you say those commands very passionately, so that you will remember that experience?
Yep, it's basically psych yourself up so you've got a powerful memory as opposed to a vague, dreamy type memory. Because if you've got a powerful memory and you dive back in after 10 or 15 seconds, you will go back in again and bang, your physical body mind will wake up with the full memory of the astral projection. But it doesn't end there. You then have to verbalize, speak aloud your key words like, I did it, my hands melted, while you reach for a paper and pen, which must be by your bed, within easy reach, on your bed. And then write down a couple of key words and then write down the whole experience. Otherwise, you can lose it. Astral projection memories are like dream memories. Now, they behave completely differently from normal physical body memories. For example, how many times have you woken up and thinking, wow, that was an amazing dream. You just dreamt an epic dream. And now, listen carefully. You know you have dreamt an epic dream. You know you dreamed it, and you knew it was wonderful. And you think, wow, I'll never forget that. Forget what? And it's gone.
It is.
It just goes away. It's like a little yellow cloud floating around your head, contains a memory, and then it drifts away, and the memory's completely gone. It's gone, but you remember you had a memory. You remember you had a dream memory, but the memory itself is gone. And if you pull it back using dream recall memory, like you would use if you tried to remember where your keys were, and if you work at that for a few seconds, it'll come back, and the whole memory's back. And you think, yay, I've got it back. And then it will go again. And then you might pull it back again, and it'll go again. And then you might lose it completely. And 4 hours later, while you're driving, you hear something on the radio which triggers an association with the memory of that dream, and the dream memory comes back again.
Yes.
Completely different behavior.
I have had that experience before. Like, I remember I'll be coming into my wakeful state, and I will hear music and hear the voices of, and I'll be thinking, wow, that was a beautiful place I was just at, and I love that music. And then the minute I wake up, I don't remember anything about the music. I cannot pull it back into I know I heard music, and I knew, because you remember that it was beautiful, but if I try to remember what it sounded like, I can't recall it.
Yeah, and that's exactly why with an astral projection you need a powerful memory, and you need to generate that just by psyching yourself up. Imagine what you would do before you jump off a cliff into the water, or you do a bungee jump. You sort of psych yourself up.
Right.
Do that. Psych yourself up and yell something like, I did it, and then deliberately dive back into your body. I mean, you might look at your bed and you might not see a body there. You might just see your bed. Sometimes the mind won't allow you to see two places at once. But just dive back in the general direction of where it was, and you will get back in again, and the memory will be there. But then you've got to protect it, verbalize it, write it down, and once you've got a couple of words out of that, you have an association slice to where that memory is stored. And they're normally not stored in normal memory areas. They're stored like in, and writing that note down when you have an experience is so important. You wouldn't believe how many times, probably once a week, I wake up in the morning and make myself a cup of tea, and I see a little piece of paper sitting on the bench. And I say, what's that? And they've got this really bad scrawling writing because I was groggy, half asleep when I did it. And I decipher that, turn it upside down and work it out. And I read a couple of words out of it, and then the key words down there, trigger the association, and the whole memory comes back. Now I remember having an OBE or a lucid dream the night before. And all the details come back, and I've got some written down there. And then I'll write it down and go through and examine it and analyze it.
Well, and here's the other thing, too. While we're talking about out-of-body experience, when you start to move out, you talk about certain parts of your body doing it little bit at a time. For instance, if it's too difficult for you to actually have, or maybe, and what I read in your book is not that the actual process is difficult, but that the remembering it is the most difficult, because sometimes we think we didn't actually have an OBE, but we really did. But there's this one section, a friend of mine is reading your Mastering Astral Projection, and she talks about just certain parts of your body being loose, and how you can feel like maybe your arm and then maybe your other arm. How does that, because occasionally when I'm meditating, I will feel like my arms are floating up, but they're not moving.
What you've got there is a partial astral body generation in the area of the arms.
Okay.
And as I mentioned earlier in the program there, you can find your parts of your body coming loose. You'll feel your legs floating up, and you feel them there above you. Or you'll find your arms coming loose and floating up. These are your astral arms. And if you got to that stage, it's quite a simple matter to get out of body. you would just imagine and feel that you were climbing a rope out of body or rolling out of your body. And, of course, keeping in mind the memory limitations is the biggest hurdle to astral projection. Having an astral projection is actually really easy. Everybody does it every night. Dogs and cats and hamsters do it.
Right.
It's not difficult. Children do it. Babies do it. We always do it, but we lose the memory.
Right.
Now, if you have any sensations, a bit of vibrations and rapid heartbeat happening to you, an astral projection is happening, has happened, will happen, unless you tense up and you get too excited or you get too scared or whatever.
That's what I...
And then you'll remember it. But if you have the sensations, you've normally succeeded. But if you know to keep it short, and if you can take that with you when you get out of body, because astral projection is often like you've left half your mind behind. It's difficult to focus, even sort of know who you are, and any plan you might have had to do. I mean, have a plan, what you're going to do. And I suggest, to have a 10-second plan, a very quick one, and then the next time you do it, 20 seconds, and then 30 seconds, and then 40, and then a minute, and build on it. And when you start losing it, back it off a bit. Go back to the start even. Have short ones. This entrains the memory download pathways from astral projection and lucid dreaming so that you will remember subtle memories more easily.
So when we're out there traveling, I read a little bit in your books about the astral planes. Tell me what you run into typically in those kind of situations.
Well, a massive
I know that's
subject there.
Yes, that's true. What are the fine points about it? Because I'm so interested in what is on because I know that it's with us in the same plane. But I'm so interested in what lives there, what works there, what operates.
Okay, well, I've broken this up a little bit into what I define first off as real-time astral projection, which also could be fairly called etheric projection. And this is where you exit your body very, very close to the physical universe. So it's all intents and purposes, it's like being a ghost in the real world.
Right.
Now, beyond that, you enter the astral planes. And most people enter the second or third astral plane, which is like a gigantic shopping mall with parts of cities in them. You've got streets and suburbs and buildings, and then you'll find this gigantic shopping mall scenario. The marketplace is very strong in the collective consciousness. It seems to create that. And there's bits and pieces of the whole world thrown in like jigsaw pieces all over the place.
Oh, okay.
And you could be walking through this giant mall there's thousands of people there walking around. Most of them are not aware that they are out of body. And this is where the majority of people go when they sleep project, when they come out of their body and every night. Okay. And they wander around like you would be if you were shopping or just going for a walk and not really aware that they are out. And if you stop some of these people and if you grab someone's shoulder or hand, they'll feel like a real person. And if you ask them what they're doing, they're usually a bit confused. And you'll also see around you people who are just standing there like they're asleep. They've just fallen asleep. And in essence, you could say their mind, their consciousness has shifted to a higher level. But you will get all kinds of beings. Most of the beings, you could say they're a bit like dream characters. They're like generated. But you do get some real characters there. There's some people that are entities, beings that seem to live in the astral planes themselves. And they're called astral planes because if you look at them, how they're laid out, they are like the pages in a book. And if you go from a real-time projection and you deliberately go into the astral planes, you'll find yourself passing through these peculiar surface skin areas and buffer zones which are between the planes. And, for example, the first astral plane, if you look at the surface skin, it's like desert with a few little rocks scattered around in the corners. If you go to the second astral plane, surface skin, you'll find something similar, but there's a few more rocks and twigs around, and it's a little bit more colourful. And you go to the third, it's got even more colourful, all the way up to the fourth and fifth, which is spectacularly colourful. If you look at the back of my, the back cover of my book, Astral Dynamics, you'll see an artist's impression of the fifth astral plane. And there you will see a checkerboard view, which is the surface skin of an astral plane, an infinite checkerboard with grid lines, and each of the squares formed by the grid line contains a pattern. And on that one you'll see a large, like a lily, a golden lily in the middle with petals, and in the center of that you'll see a violet jewel. And this is what I think the Buddhists refer to when they say the jewel in the heart of the lotus. Because now, to navigate the astral planes from a surface skin, depending on where you penetrate the surface skin, keeping in mind all of these pictures, these grid line squares, are identical going out to infinity. They're all exactly the same. Now, you've also got little squiggly bits in the corners and little features here and there, and the background is like a beautiful, deep, almost royal blue with the pattern in the center. Now, if you pass through the blue, you know, diving into it as if it was water, and it feels like water when you pass through it, you will go into the general fifth level of the astral, the fifth astral plane. If you go through one of the petals, it will take you to the next highest astral plane. It will take you to like the sixth astral plane. But if you pass through the violet jewel, that will take you to the seventh astral plane, which is the highest astral level. And you will find on the higher levels, you will find masters, you will find angels, you will find all kinds of beings living there. And some of them, or most of them, if you approach them, they will kind of give you a little bit of advice if you ask them a question. They won't normally seek you out. They're not all excited that you're there. In fact, most astral projectors to the inhabitants of the astral planes seem to be fairly annoying sort of intrusions. Because you have astral projectors flying around and yeah, some of these beings there. But the higher beings, like angels and masters and that which you'll find there in the higher planes, they will, if you approach them or come near them, throw you a piece of advice, and then they'll usually move on. Very much like if you are asking a person here who is spiritually evolved, if you ask them a question, they may not have time to sit and talk for long, but they'll give you a little bit of advice, or they'll look at you and they might say, you know, like you've got, you know, your clothes are all ragged, for example. Right. You know, you see somebody and you might say to them, well, you know, if you put on some clean clothes and, you know, had a shave and, you know, tidied up a little bit, people wouldn't be so, you know, aggressive towards you.
Right.
They might treat you better if you dressed a bit nicer. And that's a bit of like, it's an analogy here, but it's obvious advice. If you have somebody and you can see someone who's doing something wrong that's affecting them badly. But it's like that with the masters. They might say something like, well, you've got to get your ego under control, or you have to really address that addiction if you want to go further, you know, and do higher things in life. You've got to do this, or you should consider doing that, you know, or, you know, you need to move on from that broken relationship you've got there, or whatever. You know, they give you some sensible spiritual advice just for you at the level you're at.
Right. Well, and that's what I've experienced a time or two, and not always. Now, I didn't always go there with the pedal, but I do remember the desert areas, what you were talking about. That's very familiar to me. And now you're talking about visiting these realms consciously, so you've obviously visited these realms deliberately.
Oh, yes.
Through meditation. Is that how you do it?
Well, I used to use, I still use the methods I give in my book, which is climbing out of body. There's various ways of getting out of your body, with the essence being you've got to be in a deeply, deeply physically, mentally relaxed state.
Right.
And you've got to be very, very relaxed in like an altered state of consciousness, but still awake. You've got to be conscious as well. And that's a prerequisite to it. But I've like evolved over the years, and while I still occasionally use those methods, like using a rope to climb out of my body, I used that a few days ago when I had an OBE. But most of the time, 90% of the time, I'll be meditating, which I do a lot every day for a couple of hours, and I will have a vision. I'm a visual clairvoyant, and I will just shift with a little act of will. I'll shift into the vision. So and using it this way, I visit the spirit world as well, and I visit my family, my mother, my father, people I've known, friends that have died, and you just tune into them, see them, and then you shift into it, and you're there.
Okay, and that now this is a little off the topic, but it's kind of related in where hypnotherapy is that people can take you there during a hypnotherapy session, right?
Well, they can in a similar way, yes. They can make your mind remember, and you can relive an experience. I don't know if hypnotherapy could take you into the astral planes. I think it's kind of a different thing. It's more like in hypnotherapy, they are evoking a dream state, like a lucid dream state while you're awake.
Okay.
And you are having a lucid dream, so the therapist is talking to you, and you create this in your mind, and it's like vivid, and you could interact in it.
Okay, because I'm a hypnotherapist, and when I take people down, sometimes they'll go into these realms that I didn't necessarily take them to, but they'll get information, or they'll see things, they'll see beings, and that's usually those sessions are the ones that have the most healing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when you have a person you're working with, you've taken them to a deeply relaxed state. They are in an altered state of consciousness. And now the astral body, because what happens here, when you have an altered state of consciousness, your physical body and brain actually fall asleep. So they are asleep. Your dream mind becomes active, and you are going at some point to project out of your body. That just happens automatically when you're in an altered state. In fact, most people experience when they're in a meditation session, even like a led meditation in a group, the dream mind becomes active, and you start dreaming, lucid dreaming, and astral projecting during that. But you don't normally get the memory of it because you're often listening to a voice. But what you do get, and I'm sure many listeners will have experienced this, you're having a meditation session, and at some point you will feel this tingling rush of energy coming up through you, and you will think, wow, something important is happening. This is cool. It feels really good. But nothing happens. And then 5 or 10 minutes later, you'll feel another tingling body rush coming up through you, and you think, wow, something's happening again, and it'll stop. What you've actually had there, the first tingling body rush, is an exit out of your body into the astral. It's an astral projection. But you have lost the memory of it. Now the second tingling body rush is a re-entry into your physical body. So your astral body comes out, 5 or 10 minutes later comes back in again, but you lose the memory because you're consciously awake in the room, you're meditating, but you're sitting up and maybe hearing a voice talking you through a meditation. And therefore, these are the memories which are having an immediate impact upon your memory storage part of your brain. And the other part of you, the astral side of you, has difficulty overriding that unless you have a powerful memory. And this is where I come into encouraging people to do deliberate re-entries after a short time and have a really powerful memory. It absolutely works.
Yeah. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense, because they're not exactly, when they're going into meditation, you feel as, which I have plenty of times, I didn't ever equate that to be an OBE because, like you said, the memory is so short and you don't remember leaving or coming back in because you're listening to the voice or music or whatever you're doing.
Exactly. And I mean, people will also have astral projection, even mental plane experiences, because you're also working with that person's higher self. Your higher self is integrated in every cell of your body. So while you are working with somebody, with of course, you're there to help them, to cure them of something or overcome something. You're also working with that person's higher self, which will transport you to a realm where you can find help and advice and to heal yourself or to help yourself in some way. So that will come into play as well.
So that is, that's your higher self has a lot to do with directing you with these. So, and I know most people are somewhat familiar, but describe the higher self to us and how, this may be a broad question, and I apologize if it is, but how the higher self is involved with astral travel to teach or to bring you to higher levels of awareness.
Well, first you have to understand what your higher self is. Okay. I mean, your higher self is not just a slightly smarter part of you. Mm-hmm. This is your divine aspect. It is a very, very high aspect of you. Some people will call this you might call this God. You might call this anything. You might call it your divine self. It's lots of different names you can call it.
Right.
It doesn't care what you call it. But it is a part of you. It shares every cell in your body. It is involved with like cellular repair and cellular intelligence. It shares the same mind as you. It shares every thought. It is inside of you, sharing your entire life. It absolutely loves you to bits. You can do no wrong in its eyes. Whether you want to be a Christian or a Satanist or whatever, it's there for you. Even if you want to waste your life smoking dope and sitting in front of a television, it's there for you. Albeit a lot quieter and more bored,
right?
But
yes,
it's there for you because you have free will,
right?
And it will help. But when you start to connect with your higher self, when you start to realize where it is and how through your higher self this connects you to every other higher self and every other living being in the world and the universe, you are actually connecting to the divine, because it is truly said that there is no holy place, there is no holy person or holy book in the universe that could take you any closer to the divine than you already are and always were. It's just that we don't realize this. This is a part of realization. And the more you realize your higher self, the more your higher self realizes you and draws closer to you. Or I should say, arises up within you and takes more of a part in your life. And in fact, this will take some action. This is the aspect which is at work when you do affirmations and even magic. And it is like integrated into everything. It goes by a lot of different names. I mean, people even call it the spirit guide, which is accurate enough term. And sometimes it will even take the form, the guise of a person or being. So you can, you expect this, and so it will take the form of something you would expect that you could work with, something you will trust, or you can work with it directly.
Okay, and that's not the same as an actual spirit guide, right? I mean, those exist as well.
In my experience, I mean, I do not have a spirit guide per se. Many years ago, I tried all that. And, but you could say, well, your higher self you're talking about is like your spirit guide. And I'll say, yes, it is. Now, for most people, this is how it is because, 99% of people, if you ask them, they don't really have any real actual contact with a spirit guide personality that they can discuss things with and that. Probably 1% of people do. Now, there are spirits that will connect with a person and act as a spirit guide for them. Now, this does happen. It's absolutely real. And like channeling, that is absolutely real. It happens. But most people, if you ask them, even though they'll talk about their spirit guides and that, they really don't know who they are. They haven't really had any direct contact with them, even though they believe they are there.
Right,
but that belief, what everybody does have is your higher self, which is like this godlike part of you.
Okay. So that's very interesting because that's where you probably get a lot of your insight. For instance, well, I'll just use myself.
Exactly.
You know, like if a thought occurs to you and you know you didn't create that thought. You know, you may be, like, for instance, when I'm doing Reiki, I might be doing Reiki on someone and I will ask a question, and this was actually in the very beginning stages of doing energy work, but I might say, well, why am I seeing all these colors? And I would get an answer. And the answer would be something so scientific that I'd know I didn't create it. Would you say that would be more like the higher self, right?
It can be either. I mean, some people do, and a minority do have an entities attached to them, which can be wise entities or souls attached to them. But mostly it's a higher self, and that's where your intuition and your creative downloads and ideas and inspiration come from. And there was a process I used whereby you cleanse your belief systems, what you believe in, basing it upon personal experience only.
Right.
And you remove everything that is not of personal experience. So that things that people have told you, you've read in the books, they go onto a list which is a possible or the probable list, waiting for data before you take them into your core belief.
Right.
And by doing it this way, you cleanse your core belief system, which allows you to move closer to your higher self and receive the downloads of truth, answers to your questions. Just imagine that a typical belief system where people have a lot of chosen beliefs that they haven't actually walked the walk with themselves.
Right, exactly.
And that creates a triangular belief system. Analogy here, a triangular belief system. Now, the truth and inspiration is spherical. You've got these orbs of truth, little balls of light, which drop down through your belief system filters and into your mind so they can take root and spring up in your mind as an idea. Now, if you've got a triangular belief system, if you try and force a truth orb through that, you will damage it or destroy it. So you're actually blocking your access to truth here. Now, every holy person in the world, the genuine ones, will tell you the same thing. You must proceed through personal experience only.
Well, that is really, I like what you said there. That is a huge piece of advice for someone when they're embarking out on their own spirituality, because like you said, oftentimes our spirituality is based on what we have read or what we have learned, but not necessarily what we've experienced. And to experience your own is how you develop your own opinion, your own relationship. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
It is exactly, and this can be related directly to scientific process. It means that if you allow people to bring in hearsay and ideas and things without actually having to prove something into science, it would destroy the entire scientific movement because you get lots of errors coming in. So a similar process applies. If you want something that's really, really pure and working at a very high level, it's got to be very precise.
I see. Oh, that's so, I love that. It's very fascinating. And that's like a whole, gosh, there's so many things we could talk about, Robert, on so many different shows. You have so much wisdom. We're kind of at the end of our time, but I wanted to find out, now you've got the Mastering Astral Projection, and I wanted to tell the audience about that because that is like almost a step-by-step book, correct, to
yes, it is. It's a program.
Yes, to instruct you how to do your OBE primarily, right? Just the out-of-body experience.
Exactly. I also do video-based programs teaching astral projection on astraldynamics.com.
Okay, and do you also have like CDs? Does that come now? I think the Mastering Astral Projection has CDs with it, right?
Well, it does have a download. We're working on the CDs,
but
I do have a 4-CD set available, 4 DVD sets, 4 DVDs, I should say, with about 12 hours of video on them, and that is on manifestation and self-healing.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Because what I was thinking is, like, if you're trying to do an OBE and you're laying there, doesn't it help to have somebody kind of instructing you or taking you down into a relaxation state?
Absolutely. That can be, if you are a hypnotherapist, you have to know what you're doing.
Right, correct. Okay, I was just curious because when you were talking about, one of my experiences is I did download MP3 of a gentleman leading you down into a place where you could do astral travel, basically, is what it was.
I do have the Mastering Astral Projection set. One is a workbook. It's a big book, the 90-Day Guide. Now, the second one, also called Mastering Astral Projection Audio Guide, is a complete audio book training. It teaches you energy work, deep relaxation, altered state work, everything you need to know, and, of course, astral projection exit methods. That's a 6-CD set. That's available through, also, it's through Llewellyn.
Okay.
Amazon.com has all of these.
Okay, good. I just wanted to throw that out there for my audience, and I want to thank you for joining me tonight. There's still so much that we could learn from you, so I'm glad that you've agreed at some point to come back on the show. And your Kundalini book, when is that going to be available again?
Well, I haven't sold it yet. I'm still looking for a publisher to offer me a decent deal for it. But the Kundalini program, which is an extensive video-based program teaching Kundalini and how to actually raise Kundalini yourself, they're hoping that will be available like March of 2013.
Okay. Well, so if we had you on the show to talk about Kundalini like sometime in February, would that be too soon?
No, anytime. It's a massive subject.
Yes, I know. That's the unfortunate. What I'll do is we'll just schedule my show to be a little bit longer. That way you can, because I am interested in learning more about that for my own use, and I know lots of people that would be interested. So maybe after we get done, we can schedule that sometime. But I want to thank you for your time tonight. I want to thank you for the information. And I now have an idea of the difference of OBE and astral travel. So these are all the questions that I had prior to this show, and I hope that this really helped my audience. And so thank you very much, Robert, for joining me, and we'll be in touch.
Bye.